Welcome to the channel. In this video, I have Brittany. Brittany has been kind enough to share her story. Brittany, welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
We're glad you're here. First question I had right off the bat that everybody probably has, which is, what were your most debilitating symptoms? What symptoms, really threw you off while you were on this journey?
Yeah. So I actually ended up writing, kind of keeping track of everything in a journal along the way. Partly because I think I hoped that I would be able to share my progress one day, and I knew that I would probably forget over time, like how bad it was. um, so my main symptoms are dizziness and nausea, but I think I had about like 40 symptoms that I wrote down. So I don't know if you want me to like read them off. It may be interesting to people.
I think it
Um,
would be, why not? Why not? Let's go
yeah,
for it.
it's kind of I think the reason why it might be nice to read them is because I think when I was first starting in this journey, I was sort of like thinking that I was different or alone, or like I had really wild symptoms, and then when new ones popped up, I was like, well, I'm different. And I think it just may help people to know that they're like not alone, to see someone recovering and also know that they had like 40 different symptoms during this. So yeah, I guess disclaimer is that, it may trigger people a little bit as they hear all of them, but do not fear it. It may not happen to you, all of these. But yeah, so I'll just read them off. So the symptoms that I had in April of 2023, where it was kind of at its worst, was, and right now it's September 2023, to give a little context. So I had headaches, pressure headaches in the back of the head or above my eyebrow, low to medium level nausea, pretty much constant dizziness, hard to take deep breaths. I had a rumble of panic beneath the surface, kind of like an internal shaking and vibration. I had often had a pale face, feeling like I was about to faint, or sometimes it'd be like a flushed face. I had chest pain and tightness, heart palpitations and flutters for no reason, kind of like a butterfly feeling. I actually had a sinus arrhythmia, like a heart arrhythmia during this time, which is pretty wild. Um, Fearing the worst case scenario, feeling very alone and trapped. Driving would trigger the nausea. Feeling like I can't do this, feeling like I'm not strong enough to handle this, feeling too tired to face the world, fear of doing things, I might not make it, I may faint, what if I'm dying, feeling like I'm dying, unable to handle new responsibilities or perception that someone needs something from me, was extremely overwhelming. Inability to relax, let alone experience joy, kind of like a numbing of complex positive emotions like happiness and hope. I would skip meals, eating felt like a chore, or I would do it in the hopes that it would make me feel better. Patterns on walls were triggering, or like seeing the leaves like shake on trees made me feel dizzy. I had social anxiety. I had blurred, speckled vision, like that snowy vision. Unable to focus. Watching TV was really challenging. I was in a constant state of fight or flight, so easily startled and upset and dysregulated. I'm almost done.
No
um,
worries.
I wasn't present in my body. The typical tools of regulation were not working for me, like meditation or yoga. I would randomly shake and like lie on my side and just kind of have moments of panic. My cycle would change. I had a lack of motivation doing things because I should, not because I want to. Not looking forward to plans or trips, but dreading them and hoping I simply survive. extremely triggered by health issues, talk of healthcare, hospital settings, etc., feeling faint when I would talk about these, wanting a life partner, but no longer feeling like I'm able to date or let anyone in, relying on my mom or family in states of panic, like come save me, feeling afraid of being alone, just a general lack of self-esteem, and inability to see the bigger picture. Of course, panic attacks often, eye twitching, ear ringing, sudden vertigo. I lost about 10 pounds, which isn't as bad as others. High blood pressure, high heart rate. I did have DPDR, which comes up a lot. So just kind of feeling like I couldn't look in the mirror, feeling like a zombie, feeling like I couldn't recognize myself, feeling kind of like I was in a playhouse or like on a set of a movie sort of feeling. And then just really scary thoughts and depressive thoughts, and that sort of thing. So, and then there's even like more, I thought of more like right before I got on the call. I mean, it just, when this sort of thing happens, your body just, reacts in a wide range of ways. So, really, I think there's like anything could fall under the umbrella of symptoms. So I don't know, that was a lot, but that's the that's the list.
I wish I would have written out a list during my journey.
Yeah.
I wrote out a list afterwards, but I know I missed a bunch of stuff, and it would have been
Yeah.
cool to see. Like, I also wish I would have kind of recorded myself during the journey. I was just so terrified that I wasn't going to get out that I'm like, why document? I don't even know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's really good that you did that. It's like, look, it's one of those like kind of things I wish I would have done. Um,
Because you do
and
forget when you start
mhm,
recovering. Um, you know that it was like the most awful experience of your life,
yeah.
but it's hard to like tangibly really and to remember it because you were just surviving, and trying to get through it.
Yeah, and I feel like the longer it's gone on for me, like the longer I've been like, where I'm at right now, like the more I forget. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like the mentors, like the recovery mentors are so much better at it than me now, because I just feel like I'm so like I'm sounding like the people that told me it was nothing,
Yeah.
you know? Where and it's not true. It's like I remember exactly what they went through, but like it's starting to fade. And I would give the
Mhm.
typical answers my doctors would give. I'd be like, I'm feeling this and I'm scared. And I'd just be like, stop being scared. Like,
Yeah.
the relatability kind of disappears. So it's really great that you have that. And I wanted to ask Brittany, um, how did all of this start? Like, how did the
Mm.
cycle, what happened exactly?
Yeah, it's kind of I try to keep it short as much as possible because on the surface it feels like something happened randomly to me in about March of this year, but in reality, I think it's been years in the making. And so I guess it kind of I guess I'll say that I like primed my system years ago, and then a traumatic event kind of propelled me into the cycle. So I guess I would say maybe like 2019, I was coming out of a relationship just in a lot of heartbreak. I was living across the country with them, not near any friends or family. And I kind of immediately moved, into my own space and started a new relationship that was pretty toxic and kind of abusive in nature. And so I was with that person when the pandemic started. And so then I was already in this like state of dysregulation and just like survival mode. And then the pandemic kind of like set me off into like, just a lot of fear and panic. And so I ended up moving back home across the country during the pandemic at the height of it in June 2020. And so, again, feeling like I just need to survive, I just need to get home, I need to get through it. And I lived with my parents for 2 years. And I think it was like a year into living with them, I ended up having a lot of hip issues. So I was kind of recovering from those relationships mentally, but then physically, I ended up having a lot of hip pain. And so after a lot of testing and different things, I found out that I needed to have 2 hip surgeries. So I had 2 hip surgeries during the pandemic. And, anyone who's had a surgery, it's really a lot to go through. I think in year 2021, I was in crutches for 4 months out of that year, and, couldn't walk, and sort of saw my future as just like crumbling before me, and feeling like I couldn't achieve what I wanted to achieve or be who I wanted to be, and feeling like I was out of control in my life. And that was kind of when I was really starting the worst case scenario thinking. So then that kind of all, I had a great job that included a lot of travel, um, high stress kind of job. Just, I guess I would say, I'm basically a public official. So I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of traveling for work. So my face is just kind of out there a lot. And we had a big trade mission to Mexico City, and I'm in Vermont. So this was a big trip where we ended up going and trying to create these different connections. And I had a personal trip in Oaxaca before going to Mexico City. And before that, I was just really anxious about the trip. I was like really fixated on earthquakes, and like just feeling like something bad was going to happen. And I went from Oaxaca to Mexico City, which was high altitude. And I ended up getting an ear infection at high altitude. And eventually, just randomly, I ended up feeling extremely nauseous and dizzy one day on the trip. And basically, I was kind of like just unable to like function. And I tried to get a massage that day to like see if maybe I just need to relax. And I ended up just basically not being able to get off of the massage table. I was like basically feeling like I was going to faint, and like, not, I didn't think, I thought I was going to need to go to the hospital. But I kind of got through that. But basically every day of that trip, I was like dizzy and faint. I would take my like phone with me into the bathroom, into the shower, even like trying not to get it wet, but just feeling like, I don't know if I like what's going to happen. I couldn't walk a block. I kept showing up to work like really pale, and my coworkers were like, you need to like go home or go to your hotel room because you just really don't look good. And I ended up giving a panel still that week, even though I was feeling terrible. Went to my next trip in California directly from there for work. Left a day early because I just was like, I don't know, I think I need to get to lower altitude and see if I feel better. And in California, I was able to address like the ear infection, but I wasn't feeling that much better. I had another panel that week that I was trying to push through. I ended up going to the hospital in California, and they said I had a heart arrhythmia, which freaked me out, but apparently they can be totally normal, and mine was normal. And they were like, it's probably just this ear thing called vestibular neuritis, which people can look up if they want, but they probably shouldn't, because as we've learned in this journey, Googling is not our friend. But yeah, I ended up, they were like, you probably just have this like ear issue, but maybe you have a brain tumor, like just go get it looked at. And so I eventually got home and started feeling a little bit better, but then it just came back with a vengeance. And from there, it was basically like I kind of came across like your videos. I was looking up frantically Googling, searching everything, looking up like, dizziness, nausea, like where could it come from? And I think that's when I stumbled on your videos. But yeah, at the time, my mom was living with me. Like I basically had her come rescue me because I couldn't feel like I could get through life. I didn't feel like I could like go to my appointments that I needed to go to. I was just in a really wild state of panic and feeling terrible. And I had some important work events, and just she helped me through that. So yeah, once I started getting listening to your videos and some other resources, I took that with me on a trip to Austin, Texas for a wedding, which was the height of like, I felt so terrible. Oh my gosh. But I was practicing what you were teaching and like trying to accept and get through it. And I joined the program, the mentorship program, I think a week later. And I've been getting better ever since. So that's kind of how I got to where I am. It's a long-winded story, but there was a precipitating health event, I think. But my approach is like, it doesn't matter, if there was a health event. My doctor thought it was COVID. People thought it was lots of things. Regardless, your nervous system is broken, basically, at that point. And like, really, what you teach in your program is the only way to get out of it. Oh, you're muted, I think.
Sorry. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
When did you start thinking, when did you start realizing maybe that this was a nervous system issue, that this was like what doctors call anxiety typically? When did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think, I did what you recommend too in your videos. I did all the testing under the sun. I did a MRI. Wore a heart monitor. I did blood testing, the hearing tests, vestibular testing. Well, that only happened later on, but because I couldn't really get in for an appointment for that. But I did a lot of testing, and I ended up I wasn't getting anywhere with my primary care doctor. So I ended
Mhm.
up going to see a naturopath. And the naturopath was the first person that said to me, like, all of what you're experiencing could just be anxiety. And that's when he ordered an adrenal test, which, I don't think everyone needs to do this, but he ordered an adrenal test. And that was fascinating because basically my adrenal system was like upside down. My circadian rhythm was upside down, which is what I think you talk about this in some of your videos. So my
I did
body
the
was
same
pumping.
test.
You
Yeah, I
did?
did the
Yeah,
same test. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
My cortisol was through the roof. But
yeah,
my naturopath did not tell me it was anxiety.
yeah.
Told me it was
It's like, I also didn't
yeah.
love this doctor. It's like a love hate because I was like, are you kidding? Like, I'm literally like telling you all of these things. And it
Yeah.
just felt like he was brushing it off. But he was the one that ultimately propelled me into like this thinking of like stress hormones and my circadian rhythm being off and like how that could cause all of this. And I think ultimately he was right.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. How did how are you doing right now? Like while you're on your journey and like you're in a much better place, but how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I think I would say the same thing that probably a lot of people have said on these testimonials. I think I've watched, pretty much all of them. They're really helpful for me. But I don't think anyone could really ever say they're 100% recovered. It's, I think in anxiety and like your journey to recovery, it's like I'm at the point where it's so much, I'm way past the recovery of anxiety into like, how do I want to prevent this from happening again? And tackling these patterns that are unproductive for me is kind of where I'm at. So, I'm still struggling with a couple things, but I am doing really well. I mean, I would not imagine where I'm at like in April, or even a couple months ago. This will feel scary to some people, but like I'm drinking coffee, I'm drinking alcohol, I'm enjoying marijuana on occasion. I'm running, I'm exercising, I'm not fearing my heart rate going up, sweating. I'm driving everywhere. I think the longest drive I took was like 6 hours. Camping, I love watching TV again, which is amazing. I love food again, which, everyone kind of says like, eventually, I think you've said this too. There's a point where you're like, I don't really want to like lose, or like, I don't want to keep gaining weight. I've gained the weight back, and now it's like, I'm kind of just trying to keep healthy. And yeah, but I think there's some, like I said, I'm still trying to work. I think there's a reason why. I think there's probably a psychological pattern a little bit to people who end up in this situation. Maybe they're perfectionists, they're overthinkers, maybe empaths or people like that. And so I'm still that person. And so I'm realizing that a lot of those behaviors, don't serve me. And so I'm trying to I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, it's not productive for me to keep living life this way. So yeah, still struggling with like changing that trajectory for myself. That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, doing
Yeah,
really, really well.
that's amazing. I think your journey's been really special. I think it's been really great watching you, on this journey. How has your journey been? Like once you like joined the program, how was your like experience in general of like going through all this? Like talk about like some of the ups and downs that you were experiencing, or just basically whatever you want to
Yeah.
express.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got a little bit of a head start because I was watching your videos before I joined the program. So
Mhm.
all of the lessons that you teach in the program are in your videos that are available. So I think, people really can take what you're putting out there for free and can recover. I just sort of felt like I didn't feel like I live alone. I don't have a partner. My family, they're great supports, but not the biggest mental support. And so I just felt like I needed something more. And so yeah, I joined the program, and that was really helpful for me to just, accept that, or maybe that's not the right word, like just choose one path. So, I read the book. I have it right. I put all the things right here. But, I read the Claire Weeks book, Hope and Help for Your Nerves, early on in the program. And she talks about in the book how, choose one path, um, of like choose one resource or one program and stick with that. Don't confuse yourself by like trying all these things different things at the same time. And so I really just like put everything into like what I was learning in the program. And so I basically it's not a linear journey, which is something that everybody learns along the way. You have a lot of ups and downs. I would say for the first like month, I just accepted feeling terrible. And that was my main goal, was to like just live my life taking all of these symptoms with me and just accepting that they're there. And that was all that I could do. And not fear them, or fight them, or go down trying to control them. And so once I started doing that, it was really quickly when my symptoms started to feel better and I started to heal. And I think Claire Weeks also says that, it can take like 2 months to heal your nervous system. So I think it's important for people to realize that like there's a scientific reason why you feel this way. Like your nervous system has just like crapped out, and it's going to take time for it to reset. It's not like, it's not all in your head. You know, these are real symptoms that you're feeling, and it's not going to fix itself overnight. And so the sooner you can just accept that it's going to take time, the faster, ironically, that you'll recover. It's almost like once you stop trying to recover, you will start recovering, which is
Yeah.
a hard thing to wrap your head around when you're this perfectionistic, you know, person that wants to control their body. That's what I've done my whole life. And I was finally forced to stop. So yeah, but I guess the journey, you know, I had what some would call setbacks. I know that we're trying to not really say that word as much because it really doesn't capture. It's almost like, I would say it's like an opportunity. I had lots of opportunities where I could have spiraled, you know, such as I had some vertigo attacks that came out of nowhere. And I could have spiraled, but I just said, like, I know what this is. And the intrusive thoughts, you know, the really scary thoughts, I almost got to a point where I was just like laughing at them, like, oh, that was really messed up. Like, I can't believe like you just thought of that. And I was like, well, whatever. And you kind of like, that's the point that you have to get to. It feels extreme, but you have to 100% let go to heal, is what I've learned, at least.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so scary, right? For like just all of us. It's I think and I feel you probably you have the same thing, which is like, if you want to get something, you have to achieve it. You have to really break it down, understand it, and then like
Mhm.
chip at it. And this is one of those things where you can't. It's like letting
Mhm.
go will fix itself. And then there's that element of trust that it's like, well,
Mhm.
if I just let it go, it'll work in the favor, and that's like this weird, it's a muscle in its own way. It doesn't matter what you've done in life. Like I've seen so many different types of people, no matter what skills they have, this is like a unique skill they have to like develop on
Mhm.
themselves. And it's just one of
Yeah.
those like amazing experiences where it's like developing a new skill, really, in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, and it's not a skill that we're taught. You know, I think about without getting too much into like society and all that. I mean, we at least in like the US society, we're raised to basically, you know, work as hard as we possibly can. And the only way to be successful is to put this extreme pressure on ourselves and accept that we're never doing enough. And if we get sick or we get, you know, or we have an issue, we didn't work hard enough, and we need to fix it. You know, like if you have an injury, you know, you need to be going to the gym every day, strengthening that injury. And and yeah, just this sense of independence of like, if you don't get better, it's your fault. And so I think that's our instinct, is to, you know, as many people have done, spend tons of money on different things, you know, diets. And I was diagnosed with like vestibular migraine during this process, and I was this close to cutting out, you know, 50,000 things out of my diet. And that's an exaggeration, but you know, a lot of
Yeah.
things. And controlling, again, that's controlling my body. And what our bodies actually need is space. It needs space. And I think we just don't have this, we're not raised to have this belief that we can heal without all of these, you know, medicines or whatever. That it actually, with just space and letting go and acceptance, it actually heals itself really well in a pretty short amount of time. And so I think it's just important to like tell people, because we don't get told enough in our society, that like you can recover from this, and you will recover from this if you, just kind of work on these principles. We're told too much that like, oh, you have vestibular migraine, you have long COVID, or whatever else you were like possibly diagnosed with. You're going to live with that forever, and like just manage it, with all of these things. And we don't get told enough that like we can heal, because that's the truth. And so I want people to know that like that is what's going to happen to you. You just have to follow kind of like these principles that are not intuitive, and they don't make a lot of sense. Like, you're telling me to let go and like accept, and that's it. And like, it really is like, stop, just stop. Like, it's like your program, that's literally what it teaches, and it sucks that we have to be told like through this immersive program to just stop, but that's it.
Yeah, it's harder to tell people to stop than to
Yeah.
give them something. I've
Yeah.
realized that. I've almost felt like it would be, I sometimes feel the pressure that I need to give them something. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, like, so what do I do? What do I do? It's like, it's actually what you need to do less. It's like, it's not
Mhm.
about doing this, it's stop doing this. But how
Yes.
do I stop myself from doing this? Like,
Yes.
and
That's the
it's just
hard part.
like, it's almost easier to be like, just do this. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, like, and it's like that. I get it. It's harder.
It
And
is.
it's one of those reasons why I feel like it's so easy for people to like sell stuff, because they're just like, you want something, here you go. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
You want
like,
a quick fix.
yeah, give them what they want, and it's like one of those things where it's like, the team always is discussing. We always talk about like treading the fine line between giving what they want, but giving them what they want and what they need. And it's like,
Yes.
well, what do they need? Okay, cool. How can we facilitate that and, see like, if there is a middle ground of giving them what they need. So it's like
Yeah.
this weird thing that, but yeah, it's weird. It's hard. It's frustrating,
Yes. And
going through it.
everyone's
Yeah.
timeline is different. Like I did
Yeah.
feel like I recovered pretty quickly. But that was really just because, like I said, I totally surrendered. But, I think everybody's different and how they go through it, and people's ups and downs are different. And it is hard because, we in the program, people, they want to know like really detailed, like, well, what do I do about this scenario? Or like,
Yeah.
well, this is, this happened. Like, what do I need to do about this? And the answers are always the same. And
Always the same.
you eventually realize um, like I have all the answers I need. Um, and you have a lot of it too is trusting in yourself again. You know, um, we went through a really traumatic, scary experience. Our body physically did a lot of wild things. And it's hard to come back from that when you know what your body's capable of. I think that's something I'm still kind of, working through, is like, I know what it could do. And that fear is still a little bit there, but you have to keep working on, it's the fear that perpetuates the cycle. And so you have to keep living your life, and you don't avoid, and just accept.
Yeah, I get what you mean about how strong the body is and how strong the mind is, and it's a little bit scary. I like to
Yeah.
describe it as a car. It's like it can
Mhm.
really do some damage if you're not sure how to like drive it. Like if you keep
Mhm.
pressing the gas and the like brake at the same time, it can really do some stuff. But being in this, being a few steps ahead of you, I think yes, it's powerful, but the beast will always be on your side. As long as you're able to navigate, as long as you're able to steer it correctly, which you've learned the skills,
Mhm.
it's not about like, whoa, that was strong. Like, what if it hits me like that? What
Yeah.
if it goes? It's not so much about the beast. It's like, is it on your side or not? But I've found it's on your side once you know how to navigate it and how to address it. And sometimes you have to put it back in its place a little bit, but
Yeah.
once you learn that communication with it,
Mhm.
it's not, you look at it almost as like, wow, the body's really resilient. Like the body's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
designed to survive. And so it's
Mhm.
like in that sense, it gives you that comfort that it's like, yo, your body's like pretty strong. It's dealt with a lot over millions of years. Like
Mhm.
it has this, like it has amazing ability to adapt and
Yeah.
change. And um if something comes up, it will do what it needs to, but it won't do it against you because
Mhm.
you're the driver of it. And so, but I get what you mean. And I remember having, it was one of the biggest reasons why it took me so long to like
Mhm.
create like something like this, because I wanted to give it enough time. I didn't want to be
Mhm.
too arrogant and thinking, oh, I'm out, I'm good. And then like
Yeah.
I start this, and then a month later, I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong, guys. It comes back. I like
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I gave it enough time and then even more. And
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to get at is that you like this is the stage where like time is just on your side. Time,
Mhm.
like more time will
Yes.
just reinforce all of
Mhm.
these things, and they'll just any sort of concerns, and like just time will resolve it. It's like no, just
Yeah.
give me enough time. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to build that trust back in your body. And like, I've been doing, I kind of see when you come out of like you're recovering from the cycle, you're doing a lot of things for the first time
Hmm.
is kind of how it feels. And so,
Hmm.
I went to a party for the first time. I went to a concert for the first time. I went on a flight. All of these things you do have to kind of relive and build that trust again. And it just takes time to keep having those experiences and knowing that, oh yeah, I am okay. And I'm at the
Yeah.
point now where I don't I really don't fear much at all. Like if I have a weird sensation, I'm like, you know what? That's everyone has a sensation like that, and like we're human and we have bodies that have sensations, and it doesn't mean that it's going to spiral into something bigger. And so I've learned a lot of life lessons through this journey, like, and it's already, it's still early on, but just about patience and acceptance. And, once I heard from you, like, stop Googling and all of that, like, it was like, oh, okay, like, I'm okay, I'm safe. And I think it takes a while to learn that. And especially with all the things going on in society, it is really hard to like create that sense of safety when it feels like the world is kind of crumbling around you sometimes. But like you are safe. And, if you go on a trip, you're afraid of airplanes, you go across the country, you're just as safe as you would be at home. It's a perception that you don't have the same access to safety across the country. And so I'm trying to like remind myself of that too. Just because I'm 3 hours away at a friend's house doesn't mean I'm any less safe. Um, and I think I definitely struggled with the agoraphobia too in the beginning, and the driving. And I just kept going with it, but I'd never been afraid before of going outside and leaving my home. So yeah, just a lot of bizarre things, but you do get through it. And I think I'm glad that I didn't, make any drastic decisions early on. I think that's something I would share with people too. I was very tempted to quit my job. I have a pretty busy life. I coach a swim team too. Callum's story was actually really, really helpful for me,
Yeah.
because he was a coach and was like thinking about quitting his job. And you basically in the beginning you have to say like, I accept the way that life is right now, and I'm going to work, I'm doing the things. It's really hard, but I'm not going to make any drastic decisions right now. And I'm so glad that I didn't. I'm so glad that I trusted that it would work and that I would heal, because life is really great, if not better right now than it was.
That's amazing. You said a lot of like really great like nuggets of wisdom, if you had to give some advice to somebody who's watching this video, it's really tough, going through a really rough time. What advice would you give? I know you've given a lot, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's so hard. It's hard because I actually like I wrote notes because there's like so much
Go for it.
advice to give, I feel like. But I'll just let's see if I just top things. I think like I already said, the answer is doing less. Stop trying to control. Accept where you are right now in this moment and accept like the sensations, no matter how intense they are. I think a big lesson I would share is like you will feel terrible for a while. And that's fine. You just have to take that with you. You can tell people like I'm not feeling that great. I could barely carry a conversation at the parties I went to, but I still went to the parties. I still did the things, even though I felt awful.
Hmm.
And that's really important. Just keep challenging yourself, and you can do it in bite sizes. That's what I did. I didn't just like go to a party. I went for a walk with a friend first. You can kind of work your way up. Again, you can't control the timeline. The irony is that fully accepting where you are leads to a faster recovery, but you can't want a faster recovery.
Yeah.
It's
It's that
really
paradox.
frustrating.
It's that paradox. It's like
Yeah,
I always say you have to be careful of your goals. If your goal is to
yes,
recover, then accepting it faster will make it go away. If
yes.
just
You
learning
have
to
to be
let
careful
go
of
is the goal.
expectations
Hmm.
and disappointment. You have to be careful of disappointment. Just because you feel off for a week doesn't mean that it's not working.
Yeah.
It's you have to keep sticking with the acceptance, and that is the irony of it, and really
Hmm.
frustrating. And I think, like, again, an important lesson, these are like things that I kind of wish that I would have known too a little bit more, is like the sensations will vary. You've talked about this too, like random symptoms will come up, and it doesn't mean that you have this other issue that like you didn't think of, and now you have to go down this Google rabbit hole. It's actually all connected to your nervous system, assuming you got it all checked out in the beginning or whatever. So don't let those things trip you up. Because the thing is when you accept them, they'll go away really quickly. When you don't fixate on them and try to like push them aside, like stop pushing your symptoms into places. They just have to be with you, basically. Yeah, I think there were like, let me just see if there's anything else. I think like don't judge your journey too. Everybody's journey looks different. I will be transparent and say that I did go on some antidepressants when I first fell into the cycle. I went on a very low dose of Zoloft, I think it was, and that really helped me in the beginning. And I'm still on that, and I have a plan to get off of it. But you know what? It's not an emergency. None of this is an emergency. I'm okay right now, and I can make corrections in my own time. And I think the last thing I guess I would say is you're not your own thoughts, which is what we talk about in the program too. You're going to have really scary, intrusive thoughts that are like, wow, where did that come from? It may be like you have this wild dream or something, but that's just your anxiety trying to throw you a curveball or trying to throw you for a loop. And I think I went my whole life having those thoughts and really like attaching a lot of fear to them, or like shame about whatever the thought was. So the sooner you can just like that thought comes in and you can say that's just an intrusive thought and it doesn't mean anything, the faster you'll get into the pattern of recovering too.
Hmm.
So yeah, just don't, it's almost frustrating because I feel like when people said this before, it like frustrated me, but don't think that you're unique. Um, you just, you have the same, like, you're just going through a hard time in your body, and don't don't read more into it than you need to, and just trust the process and trust that you'll heal. I think are the main takeaways. I also, I read the Dare book, which was helpful for me. And yeah, there were some dizziness kind of resources. The Steady Coach on YouTube is really helpful. But
We need to connect,
yeah,
me and her. I messaged her
yeah,
and I was like, let's connect. And she was like, yes, let's do it. And things have just been through the roof. And I'm hoping to really
yeah.
connect. Who told me about her? Kaylee told me about her. Kaylee's like, yo,
Oh,
check this girl out. And she was like, yo, this girl's
yeah,
awesome. And I like looked into it. I'm like, oh. And
yeah.
yeah. She's great
It's
too.
really
She's great.
similar. There's different in all of those programs, different terminology, and like, I think specifically with dizziness issues,
Mhm.
I had to be told like keep moving. Um,
It,
you
yeah.
know,
It's so wild, Brittany. Like I know people in the dizziness space, insomnia, chronic fatigue, chronic pain. It's all the same thing.
mm-hmm,
We all say the same thing. It's the most wild thing. We have different ways of saying the exact, and it's so wild how we all came up with the
mm-hmm.
same conclusion separately. I didn't know
Yeah,
any of these people, and it was just like it just all kind of converges to like the same thing, which is like the sensitization. And
yeah.
it blows my mind like how it works in so many different elements too, right? Like
Yeah.
fibromyalgia, like all these different
Autoimmune
spaces,
disorders.
autoimmune.
Yeah,
It is nuts. It is
yeah.
wild how,
It's so
yeah,
simple. Like our body really
yeah,
just it wants to heal, and like
yeah.
it is really great. Yeah, just how people are like coming to the same conclusion. And again, it's like you don't need to have a diagnosis. Like even a diagnosis of anxiety doesn't mean that you are going to have this forever. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about your program and other people's programs that say like this is all like you can heal, and it's really pretty simple. So that was really helpful for me, I think. Um, and again, even though I kind of was in some of these other resources, I focused primarily on your program, and I didn't throw too much at myself. But these other resources kind of just solidified and helped me early on to get on the right path and not go down this path of like now I'm a survivor of like vestibular migraine or whatever the the thing is.
I love
So
it. I love
yeah,
it. Brittany,
yeah.
this has been one of the most fun convos I've had on this channel. Um, this is awesome. I'm so glad you came on. And yeah, thank you for sharing your story. It's been awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks for all you've done, and it's been really cool being a part of this community, and like I can't stress enough how important it is to, just yeah, know that you're not alone, and there's people in your life you may be surprised that have gone through the same thing. I discovered some friends that went through the same thing, and that was helpful too. So it's just a great community, and yeah, if anyone has questions or anything, I'll be around, and yeah, thanks for taking the time, and yeah, I hope everyone listening knows that they'll get better.
Awesome. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I'll put some links to some resources down below, including other recovery stories. Brittany, again, thanks so much for hopping on, and I'll see you guys in the next video.